All right, good evening, everyone. This is Bram for Unit 10 in O'Callaghan's The Reconquista. So, this historical monograph is definitely my favorite from what we have read thus far in this semester. I actually hold a personal linkage to the Iberian Peninsula because I was born in El Santiago de Compostela, España, in Spain. So, not only is this an important pilgrimage site, but it is also one of the few territories within Spain that did not seem to fall into Islamic hands, if I've read that material correctly, anyway. So, one of the most fascinating aspects of his work includes the maps of Spain, illustrating when a Spanish king died in order to show the progress Christians made between the 11th through the 13th centuries of usurping control over Muslim territories. Moreover, the Reconquista was an ongoing process. So much like the Crusades to Jerusalem, the Holy Land, the conflict in medieval Spain took centuries for Spanish Christians to eventually take control of. However, unlike Jerusalem, medieval Spain was eventually conquered by the Christians. The Muslims ended up contesting the Holy Land multiple times, with all efforts of the Christians to officially expel Muslims being ultimately unsuccessful. However, O'Callaghan even mentions in his work that it is unsurprising that this was the case, given how Christians attempted for centuries to implant an alien power and culture in a region far distant from Western Europe. But it was not the case where it was, in Spain, where it's closer to the powers. What is notable, at times even frustrating as a historian, is to read about how Christians went on unlimited excursions to Muslim-controlled territories and constantly tried to convince themselves that they had a right to it. Like, even in Islamic Spain, it almost seemed like the Reconquista was in fact a myth created by the Christians to convince the French Crusaders and the northwestern Spanish soldiers that they had a God-given right to reconquer lost lands. One of the most tragic aspects of the book was near towards the end, when O'Callaghan observes how Muslim soldiers also believed that God was on their side. They too asked divine pardon before battle, and believed that if they were killed, they would be admitted to paradise as martyrs. While Christians embarked on a holy war to eliminate the Muslim presence from medieval Spain throughout the 11th and 13th centuries, they actually were fighting for the exact same reasons as their enemies. It is curious to think of what would have happened if Muslim-Christian relations could have lived in harmony with one another, rather than Spanish Christians forcing Muslims out of the Iberian Peninsula, or even forcing them to convert. Even though this is my favorite work we have read this semester, it is definitely one of the darker points of history which caused a depressing Muslim defeat. Unlike the Muslim and Christian polities across the East, the Muslims in Spain seem to have been completely forced out. The Reconquista seemed like a wasted opportunity in history for coexistence.